Hey everybody, this is Javi, and you're watching the Bowtie Psychic here on YouTube. I'm a psychic and intuitive medium who focuses on divination and storytelling to help people overcome generational trauma. And so I am actually, so I just want to say before we get started, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time and energy. Um, if it weren't for you, these videos would not even be happening. Also, I want to let you know that I am doing the daily messenger here, the segment here for YouTube. And this is the second video for September 2019. And the energy that I received before I even get started with the cards um, was this whole energy around forgiveness because um, despite that's all, everything that's going on in this world and what's going on with us, um, as a collective, as a people, we're literally being pushed and being encouraged, not pushed, but encouraged by spirit to start the whole process of forgiving ourselves and to process the anger or process the sadness that we have gone through and continue to do so until we're able to forgive um, our those who have caused us harm, especially when it comes to childhood abusers, or those who have abused us in our childhood, have taken advantage of us during our childhood, so on and so forth. It is actually okay to go through that process by piecemeal. I know that there's this whole thing, as far as in spiritual groups, and I just read an article about this actually. There's a lot of in self-help, you know, circles and spiritual groups, and there's always this concept of forgiveness and even thanking your abusers. And even though that is okay and that's fine and good, it is a process, and it is to be done on your time. It has to be done by piecemeal. It's not going to make or break your spirituality or make or break you as a person. But once you go through that whole process of forgiveness and forgiving your abusers and forgiving your perpetrators and those who have caused you harm, you will be able to be you'll be able to be in a place of freedom. And to tell on myself a little bit, this reading is also for me because I'm in the process of processing what happened to me and talk about it in detail. And so I'm also being pushed by spirit to not only do the work necessary, and I have been, you know, to continue to do the work, but also when it comes to forgiving my abusers or forgiving my perpetrators, I am starting to do the process of doing that, and it can look and I know for me that I'm doing it in the process of writing a book and writing about what happened to me, talking very freely about what happened to me, going through the emotions of what is happening. And so this is what shadow work looks like, no longer being in the dark, even from yourself about what happened. And so that's what I am getting as far as, you know, the message that we are supposed to be receiving, because I know that it's a very hard process as far as forgiving, as far as looking at your abuser as someone who may have been abused themselves, or someone who has gone through pain themselves, or someone who just doesn't know how to process anything as far as their emotion, and then taking it out on you as a result. It's very hard to see that person as a human being who has hurt you significantly, um, or has or someone who has been hurt significantly. So we are literally being told by spirit to have a little bit more compassion towards ourselves and towards people uh, who have basically gone through what we've gone through. And then once we're able to do that, and once we're able to process all those emotions and to overcome our anger, overlook our anger, and see our story as that a good story, we can look at the folks who actually had a part in our story and either forgive them, in some cases thank them. Um, And that's what I'm getting from spirit as far as that. Um, and like I said, it is really hard, especially if you're in the thick of, processing your abuse or processing what happened to you. The 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 initial reaction, I know for me, the initial reaction is I'm not giving that much power to my abuser. I'm not giving that much power to those who have hurt me. That is an extension of my energy towards someone who may not have held themselves accountable for what they did to me. And it's really hard. It's a really difficult concept uh, to grapple with, just simply because it's something that we don't necessarily talk about or think about, especially if you are from a Black family or a Christian family where the whole concept of forgiveness has been used as a weapon against us. I know that I came from a household, a Christian household, and the whole thing of forgiveness was never even brought up. So I can only imagine how it is to be told on a regular basis in an abusive household that you are to actually overlook or sweep things under the rug or forgive your perpetrators or your abusers or anyone who has caused you significant harm throughout your life or throughout your childhood. And so spirit is basically giving us the room to examine what happened, to uh, to the process, to do the work necessary, to continue to do the work necessary, and come to terms with what happened when we are ready to. There is no race to forgiveness. There is no push for forgiveness. And as far as how you're going to be affected spiritually, the only way you're going to be affected is like you not talking about it or trying to do everything you can to completely ignore what happened. That's going to eat you alive. That's going to eat your soul alive. That's going to eat your spirit alive. And so on today, the message that we are receiving on September 3rd, 2019, is to at least start the process of forgiveness, at least start the process of process, not just for forgiving, but processing and actually doing the work necessary, talking to your ancestors about what happened, crying at your altar. I know that I did today, as far as how I felt, about what happened to me, cry, at your altar, doing some writing around it, basically start writing out your feelings, processing your feelings, because the whole key here, the whole foundation of forgiveness is processing your feelings and not judging your feelings at all. Um, we, especially those who have been abused, who have been told our feelings do not count, our feelings don't matter, our feelings are not to be held in high regard. And so we end up suffering in silence, or we end up lashing out in some way, shape, or form. And I'm just talking about people who have, who've gone through abuse to the point where they feel like they don't have a voice, because that's usually the case for a lot of people who have gone through trauma. Your voice is like, um, unless you go to therapy, or until you go to therapy, or until you find some sort of outlet, it's as if like your story and your voice is put on hold. You're suffering in silence because of someone else's control and power over your narrative, at that time. And to be honest with you, if you do not start the whole process of forgiving, or at least processing your feelings, your abusers still have a control over you. They still are intimidating you. They still have that power over you. And this is, you're being asked by spirit to literally cut that tie, as far as the control and the power that your abusers have over you, by at least talking about what happened. Talk about what happened, let your voice be known, or express it in some sort of way. Not everyone can speak with words. There are people who use art. There are people who, I just read something about, um, people writing plays. about it. I mean, they're still using words, but they're writing plays and putting themselves in the position of being the hero of their own story, while at the same time processing. And there are people, who dance. There are people who paint. There are people who do music. And the whole thing, um, as far as their expression, is expressing what happened to them, expressing the pain, expressing the anguish, expressing the anger, expressing the sadness and the depression that comes with being violated as a child and having your feelings arrested. Do not allow anyone. I'm also getting the spirit from spirits, and do not allow anyone to push you, into forgiving or push you into feeling a certain way or ending a certain story, um, when you are not ready to, because that's counterintuitive and that's counterproductive. And so what you're being told to do is that as long as you're going through a whole healing process, at least do it, um, knowing that your feelings matter. Yeah, I'm just saying that's the key. I'm just saying that's the key. Your feelings matter. Your feelings matter. Okay. So the cards that I have here, as far as this is the eight of fire and is upside down. Well, what I'm getting here is that the whole concept, there's a lack of power I'm getting from this card, like this whole thing about the lack of power. A lot of you out there are feeling as if your narrative is not yours. Your narrative has been taken away, and so as a result, you have lost your power. I'm getting this. There's like this card, as far as like the energy of it. I'm getting like there's a lot of people who feel this way. Women, men, trans masculine individuals, trans women, those who have gone through some sort of abuse. I'm just getting like a lot as far as gender and sex. I'm getting a lot of things across the board here. It's not just, even though the woman in per se is clearly possibly a woman, this talks to many genders. It goes across many genders. And there's a lot of us, especially those who have transitioned, a lot of us feel like we don't have a say so and we don't have a voice as far as how we were treated, before we transitioned, how we process the abuse, uh, at the same time questioning our gender and questioning who we were as a person, and questioning, whether or not the abuse, especially if it was sexual abuse, questioning whether or not the abuse had anything to do with us turning, into someone, um, just someone else. And so, what I'm getting from spirit is that that's not the case at all. You know, if anything, you're being told that there was a powerlessness. There was a powerlessness, to telling your story, and how you felt about yourself, how you felt about your voice, how you felt about your body. There was a lot of power of dynamics, and so as a survivor, and as you get help, is you're not just you're not just focusing on the sexual abuse. Sexual abuse or abuse in financial abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, psychological, however it came to be. You're not just focusing on the abuse at hand; is how it shaped you as a person that you're also going to be dealing with. Is you're going to be dealing with the power dynamics or lack thereof. You're going to be thinking about how these adults or this family friend or whomever was your perpetrator at the time. You're going to be thinking about how your relationship with them, um, how your relationship either changed or how it's like the mixed emotions that came with that relationship. You're going to be dealing with that as well. there's going to be so many layers and so much confusion as you go through your healing process, because on one hand you did not like what happened, um, but at the same time, you, when it came to the person that abused you, you still had a bond with them, and that is actually quite common of among people who have been abused. There's a this is called traumatic bonding. Trauma bonding is when you um, literally bond, like I have an emotional connection with your abuser, and so you're going to be dealing with a lot of that as well. Um, Being told to tell you a story about what happened to me. I had a traumatic bond with my perpetrator. Um, it was my aunt. My aunt was the one who started I'm sorry, my mother was the one who was very verbally abusive towards me, physically abusive towards me. But my aunt was sexually abusive towards me. And unlike my mother, she wasn't yelling at me um, or putting me down significantly, at least not all the time. She was the one who made me laugh. She was the one who protected me. What I perceived as protection at the time, I felt like she was like the one who was always listening to me and it just allowed me to enjoy things, as far as music, as far as shows and things like that. And unlike my mom, I didn't live with her, but unlike my mother, I felt like that I wanted to live with her, and she was like a big sister to me. And so that power dynamic, you know, I literally had to move away from my aunt and move out of Springfield where I grew up and get away from that toxicity, that toxic relationship and get into therapy to realize that there was a lot of stuff that my aunt has done to me to that that did not happen in healthy relationships. And so you're going to be a lot of y'all who are going through the sexual abuse or going through any sort of trauma, and unraveling all of that, you're going to realize that there's a lot of trauma bonding between you and your abusers, especially if they were family members or someone who you felt close to outside of the home. And so I just wanted to, let you know that this card right here is basically talking about there's going to be so many layers of power dynamic, so many layers as far as its power dynamic and your the relationship that or the friendship you had with your abuser is um, a lot more complex than it looked like on the outside. And once you start doing the processing and um, feeling all of your feelings, you'll start to realize the depths of the trauma. You're gonna feel all of it. So just be aware that um, one of the things you're gonna be feeling is that sense of powerlessness um, that that you went through and have gone through and continue to go through, due to the abuse. Okay, and so what I also got here was the eight of water. And so what I'm getting is that because of the powerlessness, a lot of you are going to be feeling completely upside down. And it does not surprise me at all that the card is upside down. It doesn't surprise me at all. What I'm getting is that you're going to feel as if all your emotions are everywhere. You're going to be shutting down. You're going to feel a certain way, act a certain way. You're going to be lashing out at people. Just be aware of that opening that is literally opening up a Pandora's box, for lack of better um, descriptions. And so you're going to be going through a lot of emotional roller coasters, emotional stuff. Um, Everything is going to be open. You're going to be feeling very raw. You're going to be feeling very open. But at the same time, while you're doing your work and while you're going through your emotions and processing those emotions, you're also going to be, it's also going to feel very therapeutic. It's also going to be very therapeutic that you have started going through like this whole things as far as your emotions. I'm just getting like straight up and flat out throughout this entire spread that your emotions are going to be the key to your healing. You're going to be healing because you're allowing yourself to feel all of your emotions. You're not allowing yourself to be shut down. You're not allowing yourself to be shut up. You're not allowing yourself to stuff all this stuff and have everyone tell you to act a certain way and be served a certain way. You're letting it all hang out. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Forgiveness will come later. Forgiveness will come when you get all your emotions out. But what I'm getting is that first and foremost, get through the emotions. And so that's why this card is upside down, because your chakras, yes, or if it were right side up, your chakras will be completely open. You'll be able to be free. But what's happening is that what this is saying is that your emotions are going to be, there's going to be times you're going to be shutting down. There's going to be times you're going to snap at somebody. There's going to be a time when you don't want to be bothered. But there's also going to be times where you are, sharing your story and it's therapeutic and you're listening to people, without being interrupted. You're going to be, the more you release and let go, the more you are going to be at peace with forgiveness and forgiving. You're going to be at peace with the fact that you can look back at that situation and be grateful for the situation because it shaped you, as you for the it shaped you. It shaped you, but it also shows you how not to treat people. And so you're just being told straight up and flat out because you're going to be peeling on those layers, and the layers are just like on and on but over time, the more you start doing the work, the more um, the more at peace you're going to be, and the more happy you're going to be. Because when we think about abuse and when we think about um, how it felt, it's not us who is angry. It's the child that that we still have that wounded child. We still have that wounded child that was not protected, was not listened to, was not believed, and you're still carrying that. We are like people who have not gone through the process of protecting that inner child and have not gone through that or did not have the chance to do that. Um, you're going to be able to listen to that child, nurture that child. Um, because when we were abused, when a lot of us have gone through that whole thing, um, we were not protected, and that inner child is still wounded somehow. So we're a lot of us, especially if we have not even gone through the process of dealing with the abuse or any sort of trauma you went through, especially when it comes to childhood stuff, we have not been able to. We're walking around as wounded children. We're walking around as wounded kids, So this is a time for you to like peel those layers, and the more you peel those layers, the more you are going to start finding out, how to take care of that inner child, take care of that person, especially if you are a trans person and you've gone through the transition, not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally, and even in some cases, socially. Okay, because I'm going to be honest with you, that's a whole other video. But once you find out your trans identity, you shifted right there, whether you have surgery or not. But basically, what I was going to say that especially if you are a trans person and you went through your change already, whether it be spiritually or whatnot, you're still taking care of that child. You're taking care of that child who protected you from you, the person who came out in some way, shape, or form from further abuse. So that person is still waiting. That person is still waiting for you to have that connection for that protection. So just be aware of that, if that makes sense. We also have here the knowledge card. And this is not just about book knowledge. This is about spiritual knowledge, and because and and knowledge of the self. Okay, because the more you know about yourself, and the more appealing you do, and the more work that you do for yourself in regards to your abuse and your trauma, the much stronger you are going to be. A lot of people like sleep on self knowledge and self care, but basically what it is not just a buzzword. You know what I mean? Knowing yourself and knowing your boundaries and knowing, you know, who you are becoming and being acquainted with your inner child, that wounded child, and basically taking care of the adult at the same time, and doing things for yourself that is conducive to your growth. That's part of the knowledge, because the more you know about how to take care of yourself, the more you know about how to take care of the wounded child or the wounded person, the more you're able to unpeel and learn and relearn and unlearn what you have been taught, due to the trauma. And the more help you get, the more connected you are to spirit, to help in your ancestors to help you, with the trauma. The more knowledge you receive, the more knowledge you receive, the more likely you are to set boundaries. To set boundaries, to put the big kibosh on people who violate those boundaries or try to disrespect those boundaries in any way, shape, or form. You become a different person because you now know what you will not put up with and what you will put up with. You have a whole lot, you become a different person as far as your ideologies, as far as how you wish to be treated, what you're willing to put up with, whether you are, what, who your friends are, like why, like even why you put up with so much that you did before you started to see that there's a different way of living, because there are so many of us, especially those who are trauma survivors. We pick up these defense mechanisms, these coping mechanisms that helped us in some way, shape, or form when we when they were needed. Okay, when they were helping us at the time. Don't sleep on coping mechanisms, because they helped you survive when they were needed. Once you start to see yourself in a different light, once you start to see yourself in the spirit, in a whole new spiritual light, once you start the whole healing process, you'll start to realize that certain defense mechanisms and coping mechanisms were employed as a means of survival, and there are times, you will realize that they are no longer necessary. They're no longer necessary. No longer necessary at all. You're literally being asked by spirit to check your defense mechanisms, the ones that, if you have any right now, to truly examine when those started, when were they employed, when did they begin, and as you're going through this growth process, ask if they are necessary still, because there's a difference between um, enjoying something and just using it to run away. There's a difference between holding on to a certain behavior so you no longer are being placed in the position of getting hurt by someone that you care about, and and basically having like a logical explanation as to why you no longer wish to deal with a certain person, place, or thing. If I guess enlighten me. I feel like because it's It's fall. Okay, that's better. Now you can see me. So basically, that's what that card is saying. This is a time for us to literally, as we're going through our feelings, determine why we are going through, um, why we continue to use certain coping mechanisms and defense mechanisms. There were many times when I unfriend somebody or not talk to anybody anymore because I would think that they didn't like me in some way, shape, or form. When in actuality, um, they really didn't do anything, but they reminded me of somebody or something that happened to me a long time ago, or they reminded me, you know, just by looking at me a certain way, or not, or not acknowledging me at all, reminds me of something that I have not healed from. I have lost many friends and made many assumptions as a result of that, or because of that, is because of the assumptions that I, have lost many friends. So the more you know about yourself, and the more work you do around yourself, the more that the more you'll be able to take care of yourself, um, and go and not judge your feelings. It will also make your intuition stronger. Here's a card right in the intuition, knowing yourself and going through and processing your feelings, and and having the wherewithal to knowledge or to know yourself to the point where you know when you're making assumptions and when something is actually real. That will make your intuition stronger. Is what I'm getting. It will definitely make your intuition stronger. I'm getting that a lot of people um, ignore their intuition. There's another layer to that as well. There's a flip side to that. There are people who they know they get those red flags and they still ignore their intuition, or they don't trust their intuition. Or you think that your intuition is telling you about someone when in actuality they're your is an assumption, because that person reminded us of our abuse or abuser. We're being asked that, well, spirit is basically saying that when you know yourself enough, when you know yourself um, about because your feelings and everything, you'll be able to heal. And when you're able to heal, you're able to um, your intuition will become stronger, and you'll be able to use your intuition to get out of a situation that's not healthy for you. You're not going to ignore the red flags. You're not going to ignore that gut feeling that tells you that something's not correct. You're not going to um, just push your intuition aside or think that you are losing your mind. You're also going to gain a better understanding of spirit and your relationship with spirit. Because in order for you to even go through the whole process of forgiving and knowing your feelings, you have to also understand that you're worth it. You're worth the pain and the suffering as far as you going through your growth. And that takes spiritual growth. That takes us like It takes, you don't have to do it yourself, is what I'm saying. So this is basically, this card is basically saying that when your intuition becomes stronger, your relationship with spirit becomes stronger as well. Because you now have all this knowledge about yourself, especially when you open yourself up to spirit and your spirit guides and your spirit team. They can actually help you overcome your past, overcome your abuse. They can really, like, they can help you do that. I'm just getting that when it comes to going through your feelings, you're not by yourself. You're not alone. Okay. So I'm also, let me see if there's anything with that card. All right. So basically, what I got, this is our last card here. This is heed the messengers. Heed the messengers. Listen to people, is what I'm getting from this card. Listen to those who are telling you, who are telling you the truth about yourself. Sometimes the truth hurts when it comes to the spiritual growth. But please know that when you get messages from spirit to do a certain thing or be a certain way, it's not to cause you harm, but you're being told to listen. Listen. Listen to your feelings, listen to your gut. Know when it comes to forgiveness that it's a process, and to not allow anyone outside of you in your in spirit to tell you um, that you are to grow at this certain time and that certain time in order to be um, in order to be healed. Healing takes process. It takes a lot of growth. It takes a lot of time. I'm going to see if there's anything else with this. Yeah, I'm just getting from this card, like when it comes to any message of forgiveness, any message of, you know, having to do the work necessary. It's not because people are, wanting you to, um, want to cause you any more harm, but because uh, they see that you have to spiritually grow. I'm also going to talk to your ancestors, talk to your spirit team, talk to them, and know that you're not alone. Know that you're not alone. As I said, I was reading like two articles around around forgiveness and thanking your abusers, because that's something that I struggle with, as far as thanking abusers and being grateful for the people who were part of my story. I'm going to be honest with you, I am not there yet. I'm just in the process of forgiving and thanking versions of myself. Forgive me through those scrapes. And everything is that's like one of the hardest things from what I've read. It's like one of the hardest things of the process of forgiveness is seeing that person who forgave you as a person who was hurting themselves. And that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. But also understand that if you're getting a message of forgiveness from spirit or from a psychic or a healer or anything like that, it's because they know and spirit knows that it's time for you to start that process. It's not because people are hurting you or attempting to hurt you. It's because um, you are being told by spirit that in order for you to be the person you are wanting to become or to be happy, um, you are to start that process. But in order for you to start that process, at least allow yourself to feel all of your feelings without judging those feelings. Forgiveness is what's necessary in order for you to be free of this power that your abusers have over you still in some way, shape, or form. Know that you have the power, know that you have the strength, know that the child inside of you, the little person that is still hurting, they've been running it like the fact that you are allowing yourself to continue to hurt. That's that child looking for someone to listen to them. That's that child looking for somebody to hear them in their cries for help. The child wants you to listen. The child is looking for somebody to love them. The child is looking for someone to looking for justice. They're the ones looking for justice. They're the ones looking to hold someone accountable. You can still hold your abusers accountable and still forgive them at the same time. You can do that. That's another thing too about forgiveness. People have this um, misperception of abuse and forgiving your abusers because it's been used against us. So and it's been watered down, you know, by self help people in the New Age movement, and I'm here to tell you straight up and flat out that in order you can still hold yourself, um, not even hold yourself, but hold your abusers accountable for the abuse and still not have it um, have it to where you are holding on to that pain. There are so many ways of letting go. We're being, all of us, the majority of us are being asked to do the work necessary to let that go. Because the child is crying. The child is wanting to come out and they also want to heal. So it's time for us to go and do that work. So that's all I have for this evening. If this resonated with you in any way, shape, or form, you can subscribe to the channel. You can also like, share, comment. I would love to hear from folks. If you are looking for a more in-depth reading, you can go to the bowtiepsychic.com website and schedule an appointment. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And I am actually working on a Patreon, so um, that will be available to you as well. There's going to be so much content out there on this Patreon that's exclusively for people who sign up. So on that note, I thank you so much for listening to me and witnessing me and allow me to be of service to you. So on that note, peace.